Go outside and look at one of the dead spots your dog left in the lawn. Look at the edge of it, not the middle. You are going to see a ring of grass that is not just alive, but noticeably darker and thicker and greener than everything around it. That ring is the whole answer, and once somebody points it out to you, you cannot unsee it. Because that ring proves that whatever your dog is putting on that lawn is not poisoning your grass. It is feeding it. Feeding it so aggressively that in the middle, where it landed most concentrated, it burned the plant to death, and out at the edge, where it spread thin, it worked exactly like fertilizer. That is not acid. That is not a pH problem. That is nitrogen. You are watching a fertilizer overdose in the shape of a circle, and that changes everything about how you fix it. Because almost every product and every piece of advice aimed at this problem is trying to solve the wrong thing, and some of it is genuinely bad for your dog. Here is what I am going to give you. First, the 2 minutes of actual science, so you stop wasting money. Then the 3 things that are sold to fix this, and why one of them can send your dog to the vet. And then the fix itself, which has 3 layers, costs almost nothing, and has one part that only works if you do it in the next 2 or 3 weeks. That last part is why this video exists right now and not in October. There is a window closing, and if you miss it, you are looking at the same brown circles next spring and the spring after that. So, why does it happen? Your dog is a carnivore, high-protein diet. When the body breaks down protein, one of the waste products is urea, which is a form of nitrogen, and it goes out in the urine. Urine is mostly water and urea. Now look at any bag of lawn fertilizer. The first number on the front is nitrogen, and in a lot of products the nitrogen source is literally urea, the same compound. So what happens when your dog squats on the lawn is that a concentrated dose of nitrogen fertilizer lands on an area about the size of a dinner plate. If you took a bag of fertilizer and dumped a scoop of it in one spot, you would get exactly the same result. A dead patch with lush green around the outside. That is it. That is the entire mechanism. Now let me deal with the thing everybody says, because it is repeated so often that it has become common knowledge, and it is wrong. People say the urine is too acidic and it burns the grass. You have heard it. It is in half the articles online. Dog urine sits somewhere around a pH of 6 to 8, depending on diet and health. Turf grass tolerates a range from about 5.5 to 7.5, and often beyond that without any trouble. The numbers overlap almost completely. The acidity of your dog's urine is simply not doing the damage, and I want you to hold on to that, because the pH myth is what sells the products in the next section. Before that, one more observation that will save an argument in a lot of households. People blame female dogs. The common belief is that female urine is somehow stronger or more damaging. It is not chemically different in any way that matters. The difference is behavioral. A female squats and empties the whole bladder in one place. A male lifts his leg and marks small amounts in a dozen different spots along the fence, the tree, the post, the shrub. Same total nitrogen, spread out instead of concentrated. So the problem is not your female dog. The problem is dose per square foot. And that is genuinely good news, because dose is something you can actually change. Now, the 3 things sold to fix this. The first one is dietary supplements. Tablets, powders, chews, drops you put in the water bowl. They are sold at pet stores and sometimes at vet clinics, and the pitch is that they will change the pH or the nitrogen content of the urine so it stops killing grass. I want to be very direct here, because this is the one part of this video that is not really about your lawn. There is no good evidence that these work, and several of them work by altering urine pH, which carries real risk. Certain types of urinary crystals and bladder stones form more readily in an altered pH environment. So you can end up trading a brown circle in your grass for a dog with a urinary problem, and that is a genuinely bad trade. Some of these products also work by increasing salt intake to make your dog drink more and produce more dilute urine. The diluting part is real and it does help, but you can achieve the same thing for free by simply making sure there is always fresh water available, without adding salt to your dog's diet. If you are considering any supplement for this, that is a conversation for your vet, not for a video. And nothing you give your dog internally is a substitute for the environmental fixes I am about to give you. The second thing is tomato juice. This one has been circulating for decades. There is no evidence it neutralizes anything. To the extent people report any improvement, it is almost certainly because the salt in it made the dog drink more water, which diluted the urine. Same effect, same mechanism, and again you can get there with a full water bowl. The third is baking soda or lime, sprinkled on the spots. This is the pH myth in physical form. You are adjusting soil pH to solve a problem that is not caused by pH. At best, it does nothing. Applied heavily and repeatedly, you can push your soil chemistry somewhere you did not want it, and then you have created a second problem on top of the first. So all three of the popular answers are aimed at the wrong target. Let me give you what actually works, and it is 3 layers. Layer 1 is dilution, and it is both the most effective thing you can do and completely free. If you can get water onto the spot within a few hours of your dog going, you spread that concentrated nitrogen out through the soil instead of leaving it sitting in one place at full strength. The grass gets a normal dose instead of an overdose. It stops being a burn and starts being a feeding. In practice, this means keeping a watering can outside near the door and getting into the habit of a quick pour on the spot. Or, if you have a hose on a reel by the back door and your dog is a creature of habit, a few seconds is enough. You are not soaking the lawn. You are diluting 1 dinner plate. Sooner is better. Same day is fine. 3 days later does nothing. That is the daily habit. Now here is the structural fix, and this is the one with the deadline. Layer 2 is changing what kind of grass is there. Not all grasses respond the same way to a nitrogen hit, and the difference is not small. A Colorado veterinarian named Dr. Allard ran a study on exactly this, testing 4 common lawn grasses against dog urine. Tall fescue and perennial ryegrass came out as the most resistant by a clear margin. Kentucky bluegrass and Bermuda grass were the most sensitive. And there is one detail from that work that I find genuinely remarkable. On the fescue and the ryegrass, at diluted concentrations, the urine routinely produced a fertilizer effect. Not damage, fertilizer. The grass got greener. Think about what that means. On the right grass, with the dilution habit from layer 1, the exact same dog doing the exact same thing produces a better lawn instead of a worse one. The reasons are structural. Tall fescue has a deep root system, so the nitrogen and salts get distributed through a bigger volume of soil rather than sitting in a shallow root zone. Perennial ryegrass germinates and establishes very fast, so it heals damage quicker than it accumulates. So if you have a dog and a bluegrass lawn, you have the worst possible combination, and you did not choose it, whoever built the house did. Which brings us to the window. Changing your grass type means overseeding, and overseeding means grass seed germinating and establishing. That has a season, and for cool season grass, that season is right now, late August into early September. The reason is that soil temperatures are coming down off the summer peak while still being warm enough for fast germination. The air is cooling, moisture is more reliable, and critically, you are not racing summer weeds or summer heat. If you do this in the next 2 or 3 weeks, that fescue and ryegrass establishes through the fall, roots down over the winter, and next spring the dog spots do not come back the same way, because the grass in that spot is a different grass. If you miss this window, seeding in the spring is a much worse bet. You get weed competition. You get seedlings that have to survive their first summer with a root system 3 weeks old, and the take rate is meaningfully lower. Realistically, missing this means you look at the same brown circles for another full year. That is not urgency I am manufacturing to get you to watch. That is just how grass seed works. And that kind of thing, knowing which month a fix actually works in, rather than just knowing the fix, is most of what I end up talking about on this channel. I have collected it all at backyardverdict.com, laid out by the problem you are looking at, with the timing attached to each one, so you are not trying to remember whether that thing was an August job or an October job. There is a QR code on screen if you are on a TV and do not feel like typing. Free, nothing to join. Alright, let me give you exactly how to do the repair. Here is the process for an existing dead spot, and it is the same whether the spot is from your dog or from spilled fertilizer. First, flush it. Before you do anything else, soak that spot heavily. Several gallons if it is a bad one. You are washing the excess nitrogen and salts down and out of the top layer of soil, because if you drop seed onto soil that is still loaded, you will burn the seedlings the same way the original grass got burned. Do this a day or two before you seed, not the same afternoon. Second, rake out the dead material. Take a stiff rake and pull all the brown dead grass out of the spot until you are down to soil. This matters more than people think, because seed sitting on top of a mat of dead grass never touches dirt and never roots. Third, scratch the surface. Work the rake into the soil so you leave shallow grooves, maybe a 1/4 inch deep. You are not digging, you are scratching. Those grooves are where the seed is going to sit. Fourth, seed it. Use tall fescue or a fescue and perennial ryegrass blend. If your existing lawn is a different type, do not worry too much about a visible patch, because you are going to be doing this repeatedly, and over a season or two, the tolerant grass spreads through the areas your dog actually uses, which is exactly what you want. Fifth, cover it thin, a 1/4 inch of compost over the top, thin enough that you can still see seed through it. That layer holds moisture right at the seed, and moisture at the seed is the entire game. Sixth, water it light and often, not deep and infrequent. That is for established lawns. New seed wants the top 1/4 inch damp constantly, which in practice means 2 to 4 short waterings a day for 2 to 3 weeks. Perennial ryegrass will show in 5 to 7 days. Tall fescue takes 7 to 14. Do not stop watering because you see the fast stuff come up. That is the repair. Now layer 3, which is the long game. Layer 3 is giving your dog somewhere else to go. Pick a corner of the yard, out of the main sight lines, and make it a designated area. Mulch it with plain natural wood mulch, or use gravel or pea stone. Then take your dog there on lead, wait, and make a genuine fuss when they use it. Most dogs pick this up faster than people expect, because dogs are creatures of routine, and they respond to the attention. One warning on this, and it is important. Do not use cocoa bean mulch. It smells like chocolate, it looks lovely, and it can be toxic to dogs, who will absolutely try eating it. Plain wood mulch or stone. If a designated area is not realistic for your situation, the fallback is variety. Walk the dog to different parts of the yard, rather than letting the same 3 spots take the entire load every single day. You are back to the same principle as everything else in this video. Spread the dose out. So let me put the whole thing together, because it is simpler than it sounds. You have a nitrogen concentration problem, not an acid problem. Everything follows from that. Dilution handles the daily damage and costs nothing but a watering can by the door. The grass type handles the structural problem, and that is the piece with a deadline attached to it, because seed goes down in the next 2 or 3 weeks, or it waits until next fall. The designated area handles the long term, and it is free. And the products aimed at your dog's insides handle none of it, and one category of them can genuinely hurt your dog. Here is your weekend. Saturday morning, walk the lawn and count the spots. Look at each one, and check for that dark green ring, because if the ring is there, you know for certain what you are dealing with, and you can stop guessing. While you are out there, take a moment and honestly assess whether a designated corner is realistic for your yard and your dog. Then flush every spot heavily with the hose, several gallons each. Leave them alone for a day. Saturday afternoon, go get seed. Tall fescue, or a tall fescue and perennial ryegrass blend, and a bag of compost. This is not an expensive trip. Sunday morning, rake out the dead material down to soil, scratch the surface with the rake, spread your seed, and cover with a 1/4 inch of compost. On a normal number of spots, this is under an hour of actual work. Then start the watering schedule and set alarms on your phone. Because everybody who fails at seeding fails around day 8 or 9 when nothing visible has happened yet and the novelty has worn off. And put a watering can by the back door. That one is the habit that changes everything going forward, and it is the cheapest thing in this entire video. Now, 2 things I want from you in the comments. First, if you have a dog and a lawn, tell me what grass type you have and whether you get spots. I am specifically curious whether the fescue people in here are seeing what the research says they should be seeing, which is markedly less damage than the bluegrass people. If 100 of you answer that, we will have a better real-world data set than most of what is written about this online. Second, if you have tried any of the supplements, I want to hear honestly whether they did anything, because I have been fairly hard on them in this video, based on the evidence and the veterinary concerns, and if a bunch of you tell me you saw a real difference, I would want to look at that again and say so. I read all of them, and more than one correction on this channel has come from somebody in the comments taking the time to push back. Next time we are getting into the fall overseeding window properly, and the one preparation step that decides whether grass seed comes up at all. If you are about to seed those dog spots, that video is going to matter to you. Go look for the ring, 10 seconds, and it tells you everything.